Yo, hello. A few of you already in the chat. Nice to see. Welcome. What a day, huh? What a day. This price action, wild, very wild. I wanted to share a tweet, but it has already been deleted. Anyway, yeah, we had some not real news come in, and then it got refuted, which is basically this current price action. We'll talk about it. What the fuck's going on? Well, the reason why we have this, right, and I think this is probably going to squeeze a little bit. The reason why we have this current price action, right, this nuke plus this bounce, is because someone on Twitter posted that the US government is moving coins. Turned out, and this came out basically down here, that's not true, right? So we had a massive nuke with good inflation numbers. That's where this comes from. We had false rumors. We had them corrected, and now we're here. Wild. Only in crypto. Yeah. Anyway, before we start the show, big shout out to the sponsor, which is WooX. Cred made a really good write-up, which I think a lot of you have seen already. But if you haven't, you should go check it out. I should probably have the link to that, but I don't. So go to Cred's profile or whatever. Anyway, I think it's actually in the description too. So go check the description out because it's pretty good. And lots more coming on that front. Cred and I have been actively involved in kind of what they're working on and where they want to go as an exchange. So that's been kind of cool, kind of seeing behind the curtains and having a say, right? So that's kind of what we've been doing on the sponsorship side, which is more like just us just kind of saying where we would like to see exchanges go and then kind of seeing if that makes sense or not, because at the end of the day, I'm a duck, he's an old man, so not the experts, but it's been good. But yeah, big shout out to them, like I said. Anyway, let's get to the current price action because it's wild. What the fuck? No liquidity in this market anymore. How can a false alarm make us drop 5%? I don't know if you've read, but Jump's been pulling out of the market by quite a bit. One of the bigger market makers. So yes, indeed, we have less liquidity, and you're gonna get more and more of these wild moves. And in general, just expect the market to get worse. How do you see the news stuff fast? I mean, I just follow people, and I mean, just check the people that I follow. They kind of retweeted it 2 minutes after it came out. Like basically, we're trading up here, and I saw the fake news, and we're trading down here, and I saw real news. So shot it all day. Now round tripped all. Yeah, it's wild. Huh? Anyway, grand scheme of things, nothing really happened. This is just basically we just went sideways. We had a little bit of outperformance against the S&P low time frame, but nothing major. So yeah, let's go through the time frames real quick, see what we can see, and yeah. John says, "Is it weird that a lot of altcoins didn't seem to tank as hard as Bitcoin?" It's basically because the altcoin holders aren't looking at news as much, I'm thinking. Like people just dumped their Bitcoin, and the altcoins are not traded as much. They would have followed suit if this confirmed to be true. Got it, but Slater went down before being the sponsor of our duck and old man. Yeah, it's big opportunity missed, but it is what it is, you know. It is what it is. You deal with it. The blows are heavy, but we can deal with it. Anyway, The monthly time frame, pretty boring. We had a move up. I'm expecting kind of move down into probably another move up, but a pretty slow one. Like I could see this take quite a while, just based on this monthly chart. But yeah, the monthly isn't bearish per se. It's not really bullish either. Like this is where it gets bullish. This is where it gets bearish. This is where it's neutral, the monthly. So given we're coming from support, you'd have to, on the monthly anyway, lean a little bit to the bullish side of things. But also given we just haven't had any pullback back whatsoever on this way up, you'd kind of be like, okay, maybe it's time for a pullback, right? So I don't know, the monthly just kind of cancels out. It's a little bit away from resistance, but not too much. So let's just not talk about the monthly anymore until it either hits 20K or 35K, and then we can see what's going on. Vince asks if I'm shorting. No, I'm not. I just sold. I'm not really interested in shorting. I'm not really leverage trading at all anymore. I did try a bit on this run up because it's like, this is the perfect conditions and I have my max exposure anyway, because I bought as much as I would ever do at 16K. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to have some fun on leverage. And that went quite well. But it also is like I'm going to get wrecked on taxes. The German government will be very happy with what I've done. I'm still going to go out with a plus, but at the end, like calculating how much taxes I'm going to pay on what I've done there, it's going to be above 60% of my winnings on the leverage trading side. That's why I don't trade leverage. Could work around it, but personally don't want to. Too lazy. But yeah. So yeah, I'm not shorting anymore. Is basically the thing. I like to long. Like even if I'm not leverage trading, I just like to have some long exposure. Are you for real 60%? Yeah. It's probably more than that. My accountants are actually going through it and they're actually considering suing the German government because it might make sense. And it would, it's a stupid law anyway. So that's where we are on that front. Not that it really matters. It's like it was a fun account and it ran it up and didn't really want to do anything with it. And it got quite sizable, like enough to kind of matter anyway, enough to pay the legal fees. And so, yeah, but yeah. Vince says you hold Wu tokens. So the thing with the partnership that we have is that most of it is paid in Wu. We're not really interested in selling. So, yes, is the answer to that. And the reason why is pretty straightforward because, I mean, we're basically like, I don't care about the money as much. Like if this goes poorly, this whole partnership, I don't mind losing everything that we're gonna make, or largely, without there's obviously company expenses and all that kind of stuff that we're gonna have to pay, like taxes, all that. But yeah, basically, if it does well, we do well. If it doesn't do well, we don't. So yeah. So that's kind of how that goes. I don't know if I was allowed to talk about that, but yeah. Do with that whatever you want. The original idea was it being vested tokens that we're getting paid in. So yeah, but that doesn't mean you should be buying the token at all. I generally advise people not to buy altcoins. So yeah, it's just for us, just made sense. If you have a partnership, might as well have some skin in the game, And at the end of the day, and just to give a little bit more color on that front, we had offers in the 5x range, as in we would have gotten more than 5x from what we're getting paid now if we went with other exchanges. With some of these exchanges, being heavily shilled on Twitter, right? So your favorite influencers, exchanges pay us like would have paid us much more than Boo, because they don't make as much money off of you than other exchanges do, which I think is a good sign. But I don't know, that is something that everyone has to judge for themselves. Anyway, Don will stick to his plan, and months from now, when price is low, he will buy. I mean, that's the plan anyway. But I could swap my mind. Like, I can change my mind at any time. No roll bit for the duck. No. So the thing with roll bit is, and I mean, this is gonna completely derail, and I don't know if anyone even cares about all the things other than price. But the thing with roll bit is that, at least as far as I see it, they completely fuck you over. Allegedly, whatever. You can just kind of look at what they do, how much fees they charge you, and comparable rates on other exchanges. And there's a reason why they can pay people so much, right? There's a reason why a lot of people shill it. It's because they're getting a lot of money out of it. You get paid a lot, which means that they just make a shitload, right? Because you can only pay a lot to people if you make a shitload off of the people that trade on your platform. I mean, that's just pretty straightforward. So if you see like an exchange throwing around a lot of money, they're either like just humongously big. Like, for example, if Binance threw around a lot of money, I mean, that kind of makes sense, you know, it's the biggest crypto exchange. But if it's like a smaller exchange and a lot of people kind of shill it on Twitter or wherever, why do a lot of people shill it, right? Either it's really good, but that's rarely the case, given people just want the money, or it's just they fleece you, like they take a lot in fees and whatever. And I'm not the biggest fan of like these exchanges that people kind of like, besides like the big ones that, you know, that people shill on Twitter. Not been like, I've seen too much on that front. And if you just look into the documentation, right, which no one ever does, but if you do, you kind of realize how hard they fuck you over, right? With like, I mean, there's exchanges out there that people shill on Twitter that don't even have like an order book where you just trade whatever against whoever, no one knows, right? Like, it's wild to me. Anyway, don't think that's too relevant. I just thought I'd give some color on it. Base Duck, how would you grow your audience on CT today as a new member? I mean, if you wanted, just look for your niche, right? Like if you're really good at trading and you make money consistently trading and you post trades and you kind of like hang out with cool people, you will start growing. Just because people are like, oh, this guy actually trades well. If you're like good at fundamentals, hang out with the fundamental people, talk with them, make some good content. Same goes the same way. If you're just a funny dude, just be a funny dude in comments. Like find your niche and then just stick with it. And that usually goes. What if we're none of these things? I don't know. Like if you're not that interesting in general and you're not good at anything, people will probably not follow you. Unless, I mean, you could just make shit up, and apparently that works too. So let's go back to Bitcoin, because I mean this went widely off topic, but yeah, Bitcoin's trading at 27.5 right now, which is still roughly the range low. I mean, I don't have it here on the chart, but that's roughly where we've been stuck to for weeks now. Like this has been support like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks now. We've tested it a bunch of times. Resistance, on the other hand, on the weekly chart, we've tested 4 times, which is also a lot, but not as much. But yeah, the weekly is pretty clear. As long as we don't get through this indecision zone, I think it makes sense to be bearish. And I gave a big rundown of this on Altcoin Psycho's stream yesterday. I don't know if anyone saw it. Might have to do that on my own at some point further down the line. Don't want to do it 2 days in a row. But basically, this is just the area, like roughly this area, is where a lot of smart bulls are going to de-risk, and where a lot of smart bears that have been holding off on shorting is going to go and just start hammering, because this is the old range, right? And we keep talking about this setup. I never get tired of talking about it. When you have a range and you start losing that range, that's bearish, right? But if you come back in that range, you have a bunch of bears trapped in a pretty shitty setup, right? They've shorted the breakdown setup and it didn't materialize, so they invalidated. And you have a bunch of people trapped, and you also have a bunch of people that wanted to have the asset that just sold the asset, right? Because like, okay, this range broke down, I'm bullish, but I want to buy lower. So they sell. And now you're back in the range. You have all of these people on the sidelines or in underwater positions that they actually need to close, right? That's the thing with shorts. I mean, you're gonna have to give back those coins at some point, right? Because you just borrow them, and that usually leads to an up move, right? Not all the time, but more often than not, especially in crypto, it's been a very, very accurate kind of signal, especially on the high time frames, right? One of the more like well-known ones is this one. I was shilling this very hard back at the time. We broke above 60K. I kind of had my doubts, but I was like, it doesn't really make much sense to be too bearish above 60K when you can just be bearish below 60K. And then we broke below 60K. And at that point, it was full bear because, I mean, we just broke back into the range that we broke out of. And we went all the way back to range low, right? So we had that set up. Now we had the same at 16K, right? Broke below this range here and came back above it. And that led to quite the big expansion. You could have targeted 25K, right? Because, I mean, you got that like 20 to 25. But this led to an even bigger move, right? Same as this one, which the target would have originally been range low, but we went quite a bit lower. And this one, the target would have been range high, but we went quite a bit higher. Well, now, we actually had a fake breakout above this resistance here on the lower time frames. I mean, the weekly isn't really low time frame, but it's just one candle, not like the 4 or 5 candles up here. But also, if you're looking, what we're doing right now is we had this range, and now we have a lower range. So we went sideways, we broke down, went into the lower range, broke that down, came back up, and now went all the way up to the boundary of that upper range, right? And you could be like, hey, this could go up, and then you have the next setup, right? As in, like if you look at this, instead of my squiggles, which are kind of shit, basically, you could be like, hey, we're here. If we reclaim this range, I mean, then it's off to 60K, right? And I think that's actually not too wrong. The thing is, like, why bet on it before we've actually reclaimed the range? Because technically, you have a really good short setup here, because if you don't get back into that old range, this is just a bear market rally. So you have a short setup, which is invalidated the moment you start closing into this old range. And then you can flip bullish if you wanted to. So we just got really, really close to bearish invalidation. And the closer you get to your invalidation, the better. Because like the closer of an entry you get to your invalidation, the better, because you're risking way less, right? You can either scale up your position size, or you can just be like, hey, I can take a really good trade here where I'm only risking like 0.5 or 1% or like 1.5%. And the upside is quite large, right? Because, I mean, if this is bearish and you kind of short from 30, 31K all the way down to 20, you get, like, you have quite the big payoff with quite minimal risk at the end of the day. So that's why I think like this indecision zone, you're going to see a lot of smart bulls kind of just tap out and be like, okay, I'm going to buy higher or lower. And you also will see a lot of smart bears being like, hey, this is a really good setup, so I'm just going to take it. So both sides will kind of are happy with selling in a way, which makes me not want to hold, because I had a really good run, 16K to like pretty much always like almost 31K. That's almost a 2x. Do I really want to give that up just to chase this like 2 or 3K? Like basically, do you want to give that up for these 10-15%? Like I made a 2x. Do I want to give all of that 2x back for 15% more gain? Because at the end of the day, like I can re-enter here at 35 if I wanted to and take it to the range high, right? So I missed out on 15% of this rally. I think most people, I mean, I bought low, right? Most people missed out on this part of it, which is 25%, right? So they missed out on the bigger part of the rally than I would. And this is a much, much better invalidation here. So that's kind of how I read this chart. To me, it's just like when I'm looking at it, it just makes sense to be cautious. Now, that doesn't have to mean we're going to go down. I could very well see us push through the indecision zone and actually go up. But the setup is just too good just not to be cautious. So I am cautious and we'll see how it goes. And yeah, daily time frame's been super choppy. The only thing that's really been good is the weekly time frame. And that's been a little bit like if you consider like this false breakout here, if you consider that, like it's also not been the greatest. So the market's been a little bit choppy. And on the daily time frame, you cannot even like see as much of like this looks choppy already, but like if you look on the lower time frames, it's even worse. On the daily time frame, we had a false breakout here that didn't lead to downside. Then we had another false breakout, like 2 other false breakouts above the resistance comes from here on the left side. And nothing really did anything. So it's kind of like a shitty chart. I think we could and we should update this. I've actually done this on my personal chart a couple days ago already, but I think this is a little bit more accurate. Like we're stuck in this range here. And I mean, we tested the bottom of the range twice. We tested the top of the range twice. And now it's just a question, okay, are we going to go up or down? And my gut feeling is we're probably going to go down, but I don't have a horse in the race because I don't have a position, right? So no strong feelings. And I see the argument, especially right now, right? Like if this government is going to move coins and sell blah, blah, blah news thing is bullshit, which it seems to be, right? Like you kind of hit the bottom of the range on FUD. That isn't actually true, which makes the bullish case a little bit better because then you can be like, okay, if we hit this on false news, we could see some squeeze and maybe it goes back to the range high, which I think would actually start looking like it wants to go up at that point. So we're kind of in this weird in-between zone where you don't want to short support, but it kind of looks shitty. But we hit that support on false news, so that's a little bit nice. I think like it's just too choppy, and I mean, if you look at the 1 hour, you see it best. Bulls euphoric. Bulls euphoric. Bulls liquidated. Bulls euphoric. Bulls liquidated. And obviously the other side for the bears, right? Like where bears are euphoric down here and then get liquidated. Like bulls and bears have been getting slaughtered in this market. And I don't think that's going to change. So if you're taking trades, be aware that more likely than not, this is going to move in a way that's going to get you stopped out of your trade. So yeah. For the areas that because someone asked where I would want to buy, I honestly just want to see this. I want to see some time pass. If it goes to 20K, I think that's a good area. I might buy there. But if it goes to 20K tomorrow, I probably wouldn't even buy. That's too fast. So what I want to see basically is like it going sideways, bleeding out. Maybe have like a nice rally that gets stuffed and then chill at 20K for whatever, 2, 3, 4 months, slowly walking up or whatever. That starts looking good. But for me, the trade of the year, which was this, to me anyway, like this, to here, is done. Like I've done what I wanted to do this year, and there could be more, but in my mind, like the trade of the year is done. And there's going to be trade of the next year where you can do something cool, probably, but I would like to not do much this year. I think anything that I would be doing would be would not be the best. Like just in general, like not really a trade where I have massive edge. I think next year there's going to be more opportunity, but I could be wrong, and I change my mind quite often. So don't take it as like okay, nothing's going to happen this year kind of thing. But that's kind of where my mind is at right now. Like I think we're going to bleed. I think we're going to go sideways. I think we're going to stop longs and shorts out the entire way. And once volume kind of dies down and the market kind of settles, then you can actually start thinking about a bottom. But right now people are trading too much, and I think that has to stop. So to answer the title of the video, which is endless range, when do I flip bullish? One, if a lot of time passes, right? Like if no matter where we go sideways, as long as we go sideways below 30K for like a couple of months, I start getting more and more bullish, as long as we hold 20K, of course, because then, like, let's say we go sideways for a while, right? And let me put this was a daily, so I don't get annoyed by these. Like, let's say we have a couple of months of shitty price action, right? Like that does something like this. Even if it doesn't go to 20K, that's a good structure to have, right? Because then you have a move down into a move up, into consolidation, into a move up, right? Like that's okay by me. But right now what we have is a move down into a move up. I mean, what would you expect from this in the current kind of environment? You'd expect it to kind of go down, right? Like ignoring that this is Bitcoin and ignoring that we all love it in a way. I mean, this is a bearish chart, and it should be treated as a bearish chart. I think in my eyes anyway, it was massively oversold around 16K. That's why I got in, ignoring that it's a massively bearish chart. But now that it's bounced 2x, I cannot ignore that it's a massively bearish chart anymore, because we're up much higher, so the risk is much higher. Because I mean, where are we going to find buyers if something goes wrong? I think that's going to be around 20K. So the further away from 20K, the higher my risk is, because that's kind of the line in the sand. And I think we could hit the line in the sand comfortably without necessarily turning like bearish per se, right? Like I don't think if we go back to 20K, everything's over. I think at that point we could make a nice base and we could start walking up. So the further away we get from that point, the riskier it gets to me, unless we just come back into the upper range. Because if we get back into the upper range, I will kind of look for dips to buy. And then I think we're going to go back to 60K. Can you please review some like low time frame trades you took on the Bybit account? I mean, what I did basically was when the USDC panic broke out, I basically went all in on the account. Like we broke down on USDC, and I mean now it looks hilarious, right? But basically how I started off the account. Oh no, this is too, yeah. We had this massive nuke, right? And this is Bitstamp, ignore it didn't go as deep. But we had this massive nuke where USDC went down a lot. And I basically all in the account because like I'm like 90% sure that USDC isn't going to zero. So I levered up on that front. I had to pay a lot of funding, but it doesn't really matter if you know that you're going to get like a free 20% move-ish. And so I did that. It went up. I kept on levering up on the way up. It's one of the ones, because it's not TA based. It's just like knowing the space and knowing how serious you can take people. And how likely something is to happen, right? And I was like, this is very unlikely to go completely bust, so just gonna like trade that way. So that's kind of how I got the account started, because it was play money at first, and then I was like, okay, now with like USDC was trading quite high already, and I was looking at Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was trading down here in parts because people were afraid of the USDC drama. I was like, okay, if this USDC drama is going to resolve, that's going to be putting bears at risk, right? Because they're shorting Bitcoin because they're like bearish stablecoins, which is a pretty shitty thesis to have, because even if you're right with like the being bearish stablecoins, people are gonna buy Bitcoin with those stablecoins usually, right? We've seen that before. So it's like bears are just completely stupid here, especially given that I was like still in the bull camp. I was like, we're gonna have a second move up. So that was like a bunch of confluence. So I just massively longed Bitcoin. I could have, like USDC was trading at 0.97 or something. And then I was like, it just doesn't make much sense. At those 3% that I could get, like to close the gap towards 1, it's better expressed in trading Bitcoin, right? Because it's like, okay, now like I'm 99.9% sure that USDC is going to survive. That's going to squeeze bears. So I just massively longed Bitcoin, and then that just went up a shitload. And that was basically like I kept on longing all the way up. Like I kept on adding, and it walked up. And that's the story of that. It's nothing crazy, but sometimes you have these windows, and this is how I used to trade as well. Sometimes you have these windows where it's just pretty damn obvious what the market is going to do. And then you can leverage up to stupid amounts if you want to. Like obviously not like, okay, I'm 50x long, but like that Bybit account, I think was 20x levered all the way up. And I obviously took some profits when I was like, okay, it's overheating. So I could kind of lever up back up when it was dipping a little bit. But sometimes, and this is not like a common occurrence, and it's very much not the case right now. You just have like ripe conditions where people are just massively offsides and coping about something that they don't understand, and you understand, and then you can take advantage of it. I think those are the best trades in general. Like there was not really good TA that was like, okay, 20k is going to be the bottom, in my opinion. I was just all based on logic more so than anything else. But in general, like I cannot like advertise for that kind of trading in general, because most of the time it's going to get you liquidated. It's just like, it was a fun account, right? And you shouldn't be 20x levered in general, because sometimes you're right and you still get blown up, but that's just kind of how I traded that account. And then the thing is with people, right? I got that rally, and then what people do is they have it and they're like, holy shit, I made so much money, I'm on heater. I have to keep this going, right? And then they don't stop and give back everything. But the moment we hit 27, 28K, my edge of, okay, the market is just massively wrong disappeared, right? Because at that point, at least low time frame wise, right? Because at that point, everyone was back on my side again, and there was not really like something that gave me an advantage, right? I was just the same as everyone else. I was like, this could go up, this could go down. I think it's gonna go up, but I don't have the biggest edge low time frame wise, so I just retired the account. And ever since then, we've been going sideways, right? Grand scheme of things, like 50 days of sideways. And you could have lost all that you've made a million times over. So you kind of have to know when to trade leverage and when not to. In general, I advise people just not touching leverage. But if you do touch it, you should really know when you want to be doing it. And right now is some of the worst times to do it, in my opinion. There's very, very few people that will thrive in these kind of conditions, trading leverage. And a lot of people will pretend like they are on Twitter and elsewhere, but this is PvP, and there's smarter people out there than you are, and they will take your money most of the time. So that's kind of like how I treat these, and how I've always been doing it. And the most important part about all of it is that you need to know when to step away. So there you go. But I don't think it's necessarily like what you should be looking at. The best thing that you can be looking at, especially if you're not a gigabrain, and I mean, I wouldn't describe myself as gigabrain, but I've been in the market for a while, so I understand it a little bit, is just trade the high time frames, because you can be a 50 IQ guy, and if you trade the monthly time frame, right, whenever the monthly time frame hits support, you just buy, and whenever it gets too far away, you sell. Like if you do that, you're gonna outperform almost everyone in the market, and you're going to outperform every other market out there, right? Like you hit monthly support, especially if you hit it with a big wick, like this, for example, that's a fucking buy. And that's one that you can keep for a while. And if it goes too far away, like you bought 6K, it runs away, it's at 30K now, you can sell, right? And you just can wait till the next monthly support is hit. And that might have taken quite a while, and it might have gone quite a bit higher. But at the end of the day, we hit 16K, which got pretty close to monthly support. And then we had this retest here at 20K, right? And 20K to 30K was a pretty good trade. And in general, in Bitcoin's history, like if you just follow the monthly chart, in terms of supports, it's been excellent. So I think that's the way to trade for the low IQ among us. And I mean, I would count myself in that group as well. I don't think there's too much low time frame edge where people like think that there is. Like the thing is, right, and this is something that is pretty straightforward. Like when you have 1,000 people scalping the low time frames, right? Even if no one has an edge, I mean, if you just kind of know probabilities, some of these 1,000 people are going to make a shitload of money, right? Just trading for a while. But in the long run, if you don't have an edge, you're just going to lose it all. So you might see some people on Twitter flexing that they're trading low time frames and making a shitload of money. Most of the time, the edge that they think they have is actually no edge at all. So, yeah. Cred says, step away unless you're doing mega volume on our ref link, in which case go off king. Yep. Yes, please. But yeah. So I think it's just most of the time you don't want to actually be leverage trading. It's just very rare occurrences where you can and where you can take advantage of it. And in general, most of the time, you just want to dump it down to a level where you cannot get too confused. Like you have it pretty damn simple, and then you can take advantage of the market. Otherwise, the market will take advantage of you. 50 IQ game plan, follow veteran traders content and buy monthly supports. I mean, it's been working. I've been shilling all of these monthly supports. If I listen to my advice that I give, I obviously don't share even half of what I do, right? Trading wise. But if I just listen to my advice that I've been giving on stream, I'm pretty sure I could have saved myself like at least half of the work that I've done and still made the same amount of money. Sometimes I go full 0 IQ mode and just disregard everything that I think and trade like a fucking buffoon. And happens, and then I catch myself and like, oh, dude, just step off. I think everyone kind of does that, but the advice that I give is usually really good. It's just the execution, not always, but most of the time. At least lately, it's been really good. But yeah, everyone has to battle their own idiots, and the more simpler you make your trading, the easier it is to do that. Can we get a castle live stream? No. I mean, that just seems like not a good idea. How to get confirmation if a support will hold or not? You buy the support and you pray to God, and if it goes up, it's gonna hold, and if it goes down, it's not going to. You never know, dude. You never know. There's some low time frame stuff that you could watch, but it's more often than not just gonna fake you out. So at the end of the day, if you get a really good support in the high time frames, you just fucking buy it and you pray to God. And if you close below it, well, so be it. And if you close above it, whatever, same deal. But more often than not, if it goes up, it's confirmed to be good. If it goes down, it's confirmed to be shit. Just how it goes. If you knew, right, if there was a 100% way to know if a support's going to hold or not, everyone would be fucking rich. There is none. Anyway, that was Bitcoin. 40 minutes. Great. I'm doing good, as usual. I don't know why people tune into this. 40 minutes of Bitcoin content. Fucking boring. Best part about it is, though, that the altcoins are even less interesting. I mean, ETH's just... We had a false breakout. I talked about the setup. I mean, that's just shit. But then again, like, you'd expect this thing to move downwards because we had a false breakout. It's not. So, like, this is very, very confusing. I don't envy the shorters right now, right? Like, I'm leaning bearish, but if I wasn't a short in this, I would have probably closed it, because this is not the reaction that you would expect. Usually, if you have like a false breakout or a false breakdown, like if you do something like this, what you want to do, like the reason why this works so well is because people are trapped, right? They're on the wrong side of the market. And then what happens is they should be getting squeezed. So you should be moving fast. The same thing on the bottom side of things. And you see this, right? You see this on Bitcoin. The moment you move down here, we had 1 week of, okay, people figuring everything out. And then we had a straight up nuke, and then it just completely walked down. We had the same thing here, right? Like the moment we came back into the range, we immediately walked up and then went sideways quite a bit away from that range low. Now, what we have in ETH right now is we had a false breakout and it's doing nothing. And that's just shit to trade. Like, that's just not easy to trade. I mean, it's 2 weeks into that resistance. So technically the setup still stands, but I don't like it. But then again, my bias is bearish, so I should be liking it. So it's kind of an odd one. I'm kind of happy to just be out of the market. I'm happy to have sold 2,000 on ETH. People were making fun of me when it went to 2,100. Now it's trading at 1,800. Is what it is, right? At the end of the day, is what it is. But I don't think ETH's particularly interesting, and ETH is looking 100 times better than the other altcoins. Because what ETH's been doing is it's been walking downwards, as you can see. Lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, making new lows. Garbage chart, right? Might change, might not, who knows? I don't. I'm going to stay away. And then you look through all the other altcoins and it gets even worse, right? Solana versus Bitcoin. I mean, what is this? Like, this just... And this is, again, one of the better looking altcoins, right? Like, that's just been garbage. And, I mean, what am I supposed to do with this? It hit support, it bounced, completely retraced it again. I don't like any of it, so I'm not going to touch it. Same with almost all the other altcoins. And then you have shit like Pepe, the meme coin of the week, and that's down, that's consolidating down 60%, right? So, yeah. Basically what we had is Bitcoin rallying into range highs with meme coins going crazy. And that is usually a sign of bad things to come. Doesn't have to mean much in this case, because honestly, like the meme coin, even though like they did quite a bit of volume, it wasn't really like the size of previous meme coin rotations, and it wasn't really like a lot of normies were involved, but still. My experience is telling me that whenever you have garbage, complete garbage without any reason, like pumping like crazy, I need to be very, very careful what, like with the other coins that I'm holding. Cred says there are literally dozens of 50 to 200k followers accounts shilling meme coins or their own meme coins. Lol, is beyond embarrassing. Yeah, it's horrendous. I don't remember the timeline being this bad besides 2017-18 ICO season. Like, it's horrendous. And this time people are just like, hey, we don't even need to pretend like we have something cool going. Let's just make a meme coin and see how much money people are going to pump into it so we can rock the most. It's horrendous. Like, Twitter has turned to full-blown shit. And you see people that are flexing regularly, like they're like, oh, I'm so cool, I'm so rich, whatever. You're seeing them basically rug pull their followers for like $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, sometimes like $100,000 while pretending they're hot shit. It's the saddest thing I've ever seen, because like they're taking money from their followers directly, right? Like, horrendous, very, very sad to see. And that kind of environment is especially sad given what we've gone through, right? Like, people got rugged left, right, and center from exchanges, from Luna, from Free Arrow Capitals. Like, we've gone through enough. And now that people are like in the position that they can rug other people, right? Like, because let's be real, like, all of these people that are doing this shit were like loudly proclaiming how shit everyone else is when FTX went down, when everything went down, right? They're like, oh, I mean, these people, whatever, so garbage. And I 100% agree, right? Like, the people that caused the downturn, in a sense, shitty people. But then the moment these influencers on Twitter have the chance to do it themselves, they jump on it, right? So seems a little bit hypocritical to me when you're like complaining about rug pulling on a big level, and then you start doing it with like your meme coins. Saddest thing I've ever seen, but it is what it is. It is what it is. You cannot really do anything about it. Cred says, yeah, it's unfathomable. So when it's our turn, I think we missed that one. I think the NFT, if we wanted to make something fun, something cool, something still garbage but fun and cool, it would have been during the NFT season with like ducks, because I mean that just seems pretty damn straightforward. But one, I don't want to go to jail, and two, I don't know. It's not really like, I'd rather make the money in the market than off of people that follow me. But that's just me. And I mean, if I actually end up buying the castle, that might change, because I've been told that's very expensive long term. So maybe I'll have to start rug pulling too. But that's still far down the line. Don, what do you think about the Litecoin halving narrative? I think it's too close now. But I still think it's valid. But we're very, very close to Litecoin halving. And usually the Litecoin tops before the Litecoin halving, right? So it's a little bit of a shitty one, where I still think the narrative is in play, but I don't like how all the altcoins look. So even if the narrative is in play, it's pretty hard to be too bullish. And also, oftentimes it actually just tops before the halving. So you have a few downsides on that front. So I don't know. Litecoin's a tough one. I mean, I sold $98, which is close to the top, but I should have sold it the first time we hit it and never looked back, because the first time we hit it, I was in big win on the Litecoin Bitcoin pair. This one, when I sold it at 98, I was basically break even against Bitcoin. So I made a bunch of USD. Yes, I mean 60 to 98, that's a good trade, right? But could have had the same thing if I just held Bitcoin, and if I just sold the first rally when Cred was shilling me the fucking $100 resistance that nuked it. Yeah. Yeah, Cred's like, all of Don's elite altcoin exits are from my adamantium levels. I've received 0 royalties. Scammer, ungrateful. It's true. I mean, you should have just deleted the line, and then you could have gotten some royalties. Like, the moment it would have traded at $300, you could have had some. what am I gonna give you like from a $60 to $100 move? Like with my $10 Litecoin investment, that's a burger when you find a cheap one. Didn't go up enough to make us all rich. But yeah, it's still a bit of a tough one right now. I don't know how that goes. I'll just leave it. And I'll leave it until, I mean, now that the problem with Litecoin is now that the halving is kind of so close and the market isn't set up for it, that after the halving we kind of have a shitty situation. Because then the entire narrative is gone. So I'll probably just not trade Litecoin again. I've had my fun with Litecoin. I'll keep it, trade something else now. There's still 80 odd days till halving. Yeah, that's roughly like, just put the halving dates on the chart and like the previous ones, and look what happened before and after. And you will see that it's not so sexy when you get too close to the halving. But that could be different this time, but I'm not gonna, okay, it's gonna be different this time. Crowd is not my crowd. I'm always gonna assume it's gonna be the same. Mark says, you mentioned you don't know why people watch the stream. I think it's good to hear fundamentals over and over. The minute the market moves, it's easy to forget everything. Thank you for streaming. I mean, thank you for watching. And yeah, if there's something I'm good at, it's repeating myself. So you can have a lot of that if you want. But yeah, I think that's it. There's not really that much interesting thing, nothing interesting happening really. Like even the interesting altcoins are nuking 10% on the day. Bitcoin has, like, you get false news and you nuke, and then you see that it's actually false news. You bounce, but not as high. Like that's just garbage, right? That's garbage price action. The S&P bounced a little too, but I mean, all of this is kind of shitty, nothing to do with it. The S&P is close to resistance. I think like this area up here, resistance, this area down here, support, anything in between, boring. So technically, if I was trading this, I'd be looking for sells and then would look for buys back down again. So I think the S&P is going to go sideways. And if the S&P is going to go sideways, Bitcoin's probably going to go sideways, unless something dramatically changes. So it's a boring market, which makes for boring streams, but I still appreciate you guys coming by. And maybe I get surprised, right? Maybe I'm just wrong on the markets are going to be boring, which, I mean, would be good, right? There's more money to be made when the markets are not boring. So yeah, appreciate you guys coming by. Big shout out to the sponsor Woo. You should go check out the links in the description. It's interesting. Even if you don't end up using it, I would like read through what they do. There's a reason why, like after having months of no sponsor, we went with them even though we had other offers. Fingers crossed, that this one goes well. But yeah, there's a reason why we went with them. So go check them out. They're cool people, and they've made a cool product, in my opinion anyway. So yeah, that's that. That's the stream for today. We'll see each other on Friday, on the Casual Friday that Cred and I host together. And yeah, have a nice week or rest of the week until then, and we'll talk soon. Bye bye.